Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm having trouble with name. I wanted to do button mashers, but I see it everywhere, so it might be that, it might not be that when you see this. That's neither here nor there, but we are currently able to be found in podcasting apps. Everyone applaud. Yay, applaud. I think this is the applaud button. I can't hear it. That's the laugh button. Nope. There it is. That's awesome. I'm going to use that more. Remember when I missed it and I said, everyone applaud, and it was... You know what I thought to myself? I thought this. All right, this is turning into a really, really bad podcast. We are already off to an interesting go. What do you see in front of me? You see the Zelda and Loftwing amiibo. This is my first ever amiibo. I've never purchased one before, and this one was a very, very hot topic when it came out. It's gorgeous, and the reason why it's in front of me is because I want to open it. I'm going to open it to look at it and get a first impression because I want to do that. That's what I want to do. First thing on the podcast. You probably noticed I'm not wearing my normal play merch because I got the mug and it's hot. So I'm just wearing a flannel. I know, seems counterintuitive. It's hot, so I'm wearing a flannel, but we're talking about clothes on this gaming podcast. Great. Let's sip some coffee real quick. Oh my gosh. So unbelievably good. That's that coffee that was in that video. If you guys haven't seen it. Whoops. All right, let's do it. Let's crack into it. People are like, no, it loses value. I don't care. I don't buy things for collectors' purposes or value. I don't buy stuff to resell it. I buy stuff to enjoy it. So, okay. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I just didn't know when I was going to do it. Okay. Can you tell I don't open? Ooh. This thing's actually kind of big. How does it... Is it like really in there? Is it attached to anything? Why am I having such a hard time? Do I just pull off... Okay, cool. Okay. Sounds like I broke it. Didn't break it. Feel like I'm going to break it. Didn't break it. Holy moly. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of all this trash by throwing it on my floor. Let's take a look-ski. This thing is... Wow, this thing's really cool. Jeez, this thing is really cool. I like it. This is my only owned amiibo. I know that in a video I say, this is the nicest amiibo that I've ever purchased. It's the only amiibo I've ever purchased. So I think we should just keep this out always for a while because I just opened the most expensive amiibo I own because it's the only amiibo I own. Where can I put it? You guys notice there's no computer? It's because the computer there just doesn't have anything that I need, and it's more of a distraction than anything else. Guys, we're doing it. I've recently reached out to a couple different people I want to have on the show. I really want to have guests. I don't want to do this alone. So there's going to be more and more people that I try to get on this show on a regular basis. And the goal, again, of this Button Mashers podcast, which I really hope I can figure out how to keep that name, is... just having conversations with gamers, having conversations with people in the industry, whether it's, people who are casual gamers like myself and, the friends or the acquaintances I have, professional gamers. Eventually, I'd love to interview or talk to or have professional gamers on the podcast, and even go into people who are professionals in the industry, if not higher ups in the industry. I want this to be a place where people who play video games can really come and see conversations, right? Super, super casual, non-produced. Like, it's just, there's no script. We're just here having conversations about video games. And today's podcast, which we're already, 3 or 4 minutes into, I want to I had such a good conversation the other night about, consoles and a guy came into the chat, right? We're playing video games, so I gotta take another sip of this coffee. It's so darn good. Everyone else take a sip of your coffee. If you're drinking coffee right now, if you're drinking tea, then take a sip of tea. Also, side note, hate getting coffee in my mustache because it stays there forever and gets onto my mic. Anyway, so I had this conversation with this dude. He comes in asking about, resolution on the Xbox Series S. He said, I play it on my 4K TV and it looks so good, but I know it's only outputting 1080p. And I read that sentence because it was during one of the live streams. I read that sentence and it struck a chord. And it really brought to light this mindset that exists currently with video game consoles and all this stuff, which is the latest and greatest. We're seeing it with the OLED, the new Nintendo Switch Oled, which I was able to get my hands on. It's a beautiful machine. I've already put out a video about it. We'll get another one on next week sometime. I got to be careful not to say days because my consistency with the days and stuff are all over the place. So next week sometime, or in the future, after this, did I make a mistake? Uh-huh. Am I fixing it? Uh-huh. Are we going to keep moving on? Uh-huh. Did I bring way too much attention to that mistake and I should have moved on and I could have just said it and gone through it and no one really noticed it? Yup. That was too long of a pause. At any rate, so the thing that was brought up, and this is across the board, is this concern with having stats, right? So like, let's use the Xbox Series S as an example. The Xbox Series S is a machine that has a output of consistently 1080p or 1440p. For those of you who don't understand those numbers, that's simply just the size of the picture. Okay, 1080p, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. If any, I'm not going to go into any much more detail. 1080, 1440, 4K. 4K being 2860. I don't remember. 2880? I don't know. 4K being basically 4 times. No. Yes. Yeah. Whatever. I'm trying to figure out the numbers. I don't know them off the top of my head. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. Just know that these numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So basically the image is more detailed. And what happens with a 1080p image is it gets blown up, right? Like when you zoom in, you're not zooming in necessarily, but it's taking that image and the image that you would have at that size and it's stretching it to fit a bigger canvas. And, it looks good. And then there's something that happens with machines like the Xbox Series S that when it does take that 1080p or 1440p image and stretch it, it does something called upscaling. And what upscaling does is it takes that image that's getting stretched and it smooths it over and makes the textures look better so that you don't really, unless you really try, which people do, and they get so crazy about it. They're like, it looks like trash. Anyone who really is doing that to critique or get just sayonara, son. Hey, daddy's home and he's saying sayonara, son. Or, for those of us who are not a son, a daughter, sayonara, dada. Sayonara, dada. That's right. That's what I'm saying. Sayonara, son, sayonara, dada. Because I can't speak and I misspoke, so I tried to cover it up by saying sayonara dada, but I really meant to say sayonara daughter, but I couldn't do it, so then I did that, and then it sounded like I was doing an accent, and I realized internally that accent could have been offensive, so now I'm backpedaling like crazy. These are the thoughts that go through my head. Welcome to my brain, okay? So people who freak out about that, later. See ya. Bye. Snap. Boom. That was the Thanos snap, and you're no more now. Because you're complaining so much about everything that doesn't matter. Let's move on. Here we go. So the actual thing that happens is it stretches it, upscales it, looks good, looks great, looks fine. And so that sentence, that statement that person said was so amazing to me because it just proved my point, which was the experience is far more important than what's under the hood, right? And I like to equate it to, vehicles and stuff like that. Like people really want to have, the highest specs, right? They want the fastest thing. They get the Series X, and we're talking like speeds, lightning speeds, crazy stuff. The performance is high, right? It's a high performance vehicle, Lamborghini, whatever, what have you. But what we're experiencing is the gaming industry right now is not able to fully take advantage of the capabilities of these machines, right? So, because of what's happening in the world with tech, we're not seeing those advancements being utilized. And so people are getting these machines and like, I have the best of the best of the best, and looking down on these other ones and making people who purchase the other ones feel inferior about it, when in reality, the statement that was made being, playing this game, it looks beautiful, but I know it's only doing 1080p, you made the point at the beginning. It looks beautiful. It's awesome. You're having a good time playing that game. That should be the narrative. That's what should be happening. But I don't understand why there's so much concern and there's so much nonsense and frankly, BS around this idea that you have to have the maximum, biggest, most powerful output in order to enjoy yourself. Let me make another point. Let me bring it to Nintendo, because PlayStation, we'll talk about PlayStation in a second, because this is a console gaming channel, and we talk about console gaming. I'm taking another sip of my coffee so rudely, okay? So rudely, so close to the microphone. Dude, I'm just doing it, okay? Ready? Double gulped, scalding hot coffee. I cannot feel my mouth now. That was the worst idea. See what happens when you try to be rude? I feel like a commenter in my comment section, just being rude for no reason. Get burned, bro. Okay, so what's happening with the Nintendo Switch is we see this OLED. Okay, we see the OLED come out, and someone made a really interesting point about the OLED yesterday. One of our wonderful channel members, I'm going to mention by name, Ghastly. I almost said your real name, not going to say your real name unless you tell me it's okay. Ghastly said that he thinks the rumored Pro, or the rumored next iteration of the Nintendo Switch, a true upgrade, is going to be next year, because he thinks that the OLED model was supposed to be that upgrade, but because of the massive chip shortage, they decided to do everything they could with what we were going to get, except change the chip inside. Which, that's a really good, as far as the theory is concerned, I don't necessarily think that was it, but the problem, I'm 50-50. Like, I'm 50 in my theory, 50 in his. I think that's a beautiful theory. But what I'm trying to make the point of with the Nintendo Switch OLED, I love this thing. I think it's beautiful. I think it's an amazing upgrade. And for me, I think it's a worthwhile upgrade. I really do. I think that what they did was awesome. And Nintendo, here, we're going to do it right now. Are you ready? This is how I feel about it. I need to get some serious. I gotta get this soundboard up. Oh man, this is gonna really change our lives, this soundboard. At any rate, so the Nintendo Switch OLED is great. It's awesome, but massive capital B-U-T, it's not necessary. Okay. And the reason why I say that is your experience playing these games is not going to be necessarily improved. Sure, the vibrancy of the colors is better in handheld mode. Like, truly, it's better. It feels better in the hand. For me, it inspires me to play more. I really I just look at it and I'm like, I want to play it. I want to use it. I want to have this thing. Mindstormer, one of our player ones, he said something so beautiful. He said, it's just like my guitar. I look at it and I just want to pick it up and play it. That's how I feel about the new Nintendo Switch OLED. But I would be lying to you if I didn't say this. That stuff doesn't really matter. The gameplay is the same. And I think it's so important that we hammer this home, these ideas. And this is what I want this community to really rally around. These two ideas. One, let the games lead the purchase. So when you go to purchase a video game system, make sure that you're buying it for the games. Because that's why you bought it. I bought this PlayStation 5 to review it, okay? I did not buy it necessarily for the games. There are 3 games that I have on it that are more, actually, I don't think any of them are. Oh, one is exclusive. I think Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is the only one I own that's truly exclusive. I have the PlayStation 5 version of Ghost of Tsushima, and I also have the PlayStation 5 version of Final Fantasy VII, and as well as a PlayStation 5 version of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Those are the PlayStation 5 games I have, with only one being exclusive. That system isn't sitting there being used because those games don't draw me in like I thought they would. Okay, the Xbox Series S drew me in pretty hardcore for a while because there were a lot of games I could play multiplayer with friends. But check it out, the Series S, like I'm a gaming channel. This is dedicated to gaming, and I did not go out and get the Xbox Series X. At the time, I was like, I don't really care. I don't need it. I'm just gonna get the Series S. And then I realized later down the road, no, this is great. This is perfect. Okay, I'm not even going to try to get rid of the S and get the X instead because I got to have the best. I don't. I have a machine that is incredible. So when it comes to the Nintendo Switch, people aren't able to get the OLEDs right now, and it's really bumming people out. This is the thing that I really want people to land on. If you can't get an OLED and you want more than ever to start playing some of these games coming out, new Metroid Dread, the Mario Party, I forgot the second word, the next word in it, Superstars, whatever they're calling this new Mario Party game. Which is going to be the best Mario Party game, I think, honestly, ever. Some of these crazy, awesome new games, eventually Breath of the Wild 2, the new Pokemon series games that are coming out, the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remake that are happening next month. If you want to play these games on the Nintendo Switch, you can't get your hands on an OLED. Here's the deal. standard Switch, $50 cheaper, and a Lite, if you're only going to play handheld, not going to use the TV, are both going to give you an exceptional experience. The Redbox Switch, the V2 that's out right now, I have a launch day, I have a V1, but the V2 that's out right now that's not the OLED, if you play docked only, it's exactly the same as the OLED. And you're like, but what about that dock? The dock is going to be sold separately. You can get the new OLED dock. So you're going to be able to get that I guess it would be the V2 or V3 dock or whatever you want to call it. So like, honestly, that we just covered two of the big hitters, okay? Two of the Power 3. I know there's other consoles that exist out there. Like, people say that Stadia is a console. I'm going to say no right now. People say that, what was the other? Stadia and then Apple TV? No, not yet. Not yet. Those two maybe someday, but not yet. So we have Switch is covered, right? We have the latest and greatest, the OLED. Beautiful machine. Beautiful machine. I highly recommend it, but the necessity of it in order to experience games, it's seriously, it's not an equal trade-off, right? Waiting to try to find it. Never pay scalpers prices, but waiting to try to find it. If you have the time, great. But if you're like, I'm missing out, get a normal Switch. Honestly, get a normal Switch and play these games because all the capabilities are there. So that's the two. Let's talk about PlayStation for a second. The further away I get from my purchase of the PlayStation, unfortunately, and now it's fractional. It's not like I get massively disappointed, but I am disappointed. I love the machine. When I turn it on, I'm like, this thing's gorgeous, beautiful, it's awesome. The gameplay looks great, just pristine. But I have yet to have a game show up yet where I'm like, I can't wait to just play my PlayStation 5. And it really saddens me because that's out of all the systems, it's the most I spent on a system. I had to buy a bundle in order to secure one at not those prices, the scalper's prices. In the bundle, well, I mean, it was as much as a scalper price would be, but I got more, right? I got 2 games, I got a gift card, and I got an extra controller. So I ended up selling off the 2 games, getting a good amount of store credit back, as well as use the gift card. I bought Rift Apart, I bought Final Fantasy VII. I think those 2 games I was able to purchase. I covered 1.5, so I think I paid for half of Final Fantasy VII. But I just look at the PlayStation 5, the massive, ginormous PlayStation 5, and I think to myself, this is a bummer. This thing is so awesome, but there's nothing yet for it. And I know that in 2022, it's really going to get its shine, but I'm just like, dang. Honestly, if we're going to talk about maximizing your dollar when it comes to playing games right now, I'd say that one of them is going to have a little asterisk, but you get a Xbox Series S for $300, and you're going to have access to all the games, right? You're going to need to get yourself a little external hard drive, but you're still going to pay less than an Xbox Series X. You get a Nintendo Switch Standard, okay? Nintendo Switch Standard. You just save $50. If you really want to get that OLED, get the OLED. But Nintendo Switch Standard technically will be able to grant you access to every game available on the Nintendo Switch. The OLED grants you no additional access. It just gives you a little more display, a better back flap, as well as, and yes, I said back flap. It is not a kickstand. It's back flap. That's what we're doing. A better back flap for upright mode, tabletop mode, and better audio, as well as, more internal storage. But that doesn't really matter because you're going to throw an SD card in there anyway. So really nothing. It gives you nothing other than some hardware bumps, which I think are well worth it, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about what is going to maximize your dollar. Nintendo Switch Standard, a V2 Redbox. Excuse me. And lastly, this is the asterisk because it depends on how you can buy it, right? Technically speaking, okay, a PlayStation 4 Slim is going to cover your bases for 98% of the games that exist. Okay, your experience may be you have longer load times, but you're still going to be able to play these games. They're still going to run, and they're going to run great. Okay, that's PlayStation 4 Slim. That's going to be the least expensive option. Now, if you want to really maximize, I would say the PlayStation 4 Pro realistically is going to give you the most. Now, the PlayStation 4 Pro technically is the same price as a PlayStation Digital Edition, PlayStation 5 Digital Edition, but I think the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition is really, really a tough sell, a super tough sell. I think that it's too expensive for what it offers. I think the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition should be $50 less than what it is now because the disc drive on a PlayStation 5 is huge. I think it's an extremely, extremely big thing. So it's a little bit, the PlayStation's a little bit hokey, but honestly, if you already own a PlayStation 4 Pro, a Nintendo Switch, and an Xbox, honestly, an Xbox One S or X, you can play 99% of the games on the market right now. Honestly, you can. And I think that's really, really, really important that we address that, okay? Because we do not have yet the exclusivity that exists in the gaming world that we usually get with new consoles. It just is what it is. There's, whether that's wrong or right, that is what it is. And I think that we need to take a step back as a gaming community and realize that we are prolonging enjoyment in these games because we are concerned with what the next greatest system is, when really we're not being held back by anything. Sure, the graphic fidelity, like, I think I'm using that term correctly. The graphics are better in other machines, so you're like, wow, this looks great, this is so awesome. But let's just talk about that for a hot second after I take my massive, delicious sip of yummy, yummy coffee. I just love coffee so much. It's out of shot. There we go. Now it's in shot. So, I currently, as far as this episode is going live, I am playing through a remake. No. Technically, at this point, it's not a remake. It is a like-for-like emulation of the original Nintendo 64 version of Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. For me, that is my favorite game of all time. For me, it is the greatest game of all time, and I'm pretty sure that it objectively is that too. I know that a lot of people get mad about that, but it's okay because it's my podcast. I make the rules. Okay? Let's move on. So with the Ocarina of Time, I'm playing a Nintendo 64 version. Like, truly, there's no upscaling. There's nothing. It's rough sometimes, okay? There's a moment in a viewpoint where the camera's panning and Link, he wears white tights with a green tunic, and it like goes underneath a little bit, and it literally the white leg, like the animations, like completely, there's nothing there. It was just that ended, and then under, like, the tunic part ended. There was no texture. There was no, like, it is literally, there's like, they didn't animate, they didn't code for anything past what you would see from the top down. So the second it leveled out, there was like literally missing parts, like missing legs, part of his legs. He's granted he's missing a lot of parts, but missing part of his legs. I was like, yeah, it's a product of its time. But there's something that is magnificent and significantly amazing about that game. It's the story. It's the game itself. It's the puzzles. It's the way you play it. It's so much fun. I'm currently playing that game on a Nintendo Wii U. I'm not emulating it because I'm not doing the emulation thing, because I understand emulation. There's a whole thing about it, and I don't want to deal with that. Do I own the game? Yes. Could I technically emulate it because I do own a copy? I think that that's a gray area. And do I have anything wrong or against emulation? No, not necessarily. Is it something that I do? No, not necessarily. So I am playing a true, real copy that I purchased for I purchased this game like freaking 6 times. One on the Nintendo 64, another on the GameCube, that Master Edition or whatever it was called, a something collection. Again on the 3DS, sold my 3DS, got it a second time on the 3DS, hard copy, got it a third time on the 3DS, digital copy, and now I have it on the Wii U 6 times. And if they would have released a Nintendo Switch version of Ocarina of Time standalone, I would have purchased it again. It is the best, most amazing game. But the point I'm trying to make is I'm playing a game that was made in the 90s. I don't have my computer in front of me because it's not necessarily, I think it was 98. I have a game that was produced before the year 2000, over 20 years ago. And I am enjoying it significantly. And I'm playing it on a Wii U with the gamepad. I don't even have a Pro Controller, because the Pro Controller that you can find is like, the real one's like $90, and the knockoff ones are terrible. The stick velocity is awful. I do not recommend using any knockoff Amazon version of a Pro Controller. The velocity is completely off. You tilt it a little bit and he runs. He doesn't walk. So it makes any sort of creeping around impossible. So this is the point I'm trying to make, is the games truly are what matter. not the graphical output. Sure, it's awesome to run through. There's nothing wrong with that too, right? Like in Ghost of Tsushima, to walk through the grass and to see the wind in the air, it's beautiful. But if that game sucked, if that game was garbage, like total awful, like the gameplay was bad, there's really whatever, if that basically was a Dynasty game, and I'm not saying Dynasty games are bad, but I'm not a huge fan of Dynasty games like Dynasty Warrior, or Warriors games, not Dynasty games, Warriors games, because it's just like button mashing, you hit a bunch of stuff, the animations are relatively similar, and you see the same like 7 things do the same thing, they jump up and down. If that game, Ghost of Tsushima, was more like a Warriors game, it really wouldn't have the pull that it has now. It's beautiful, and the game itself, though, it looks good, that adds to it. Because the first thing that I look into is the game. The story is heavy. It has one. It has a story. But 2, the game mechanics are good. Like, you wouldn't expect a sword game to have such good dynamics. It's so good. Like, you can feel the weight of the katana. It's just in the different play styles. It's thought through. So you already had the game that is a good, solid story and gameplay, and then you add graphics on top of it. You got yourself a powerful, beautiful thing. Ocarina of Time, if they took the game that existed back in the 90s and they remade it to have the graphical output, the beauty of something like Ghost of Tsushima, and the physics and stuff like that, like Ghost of Tsushima, not stylized like Breath of the Wild, which is a completely different cup of coffee. But if they took it and they made it like Ghost of Tsushima, it would be unreal. It would be just out of this world. But not because it looks that way, because the game is already good. And that is something I think we are backwards on. We are in this mode in the gaming industry of the keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing. Like, oh my gosh, I got to get a Series X. If I don't get a Series X, it's going to be trash. Oh, I got a Series S. This thing's garbage. No, it's what games are available on those systems that allow you to truly enjoy it. And then we get into the multiplayer aspect, and that's another crazy, insane world. But before we do that, I'm just going to do a quick pitch. Please stick with me on this pitch, please. 3 things I want to talk about before I reset my camera angle because I can only record for 29 minutes. 1, if you want to be a part of this channel, subscribe. The subscribe helps a lot. Hit the bell or else you really won't get presented with a video. I don't understand the algorithm all that much. I could do a bunch of research on it, but here's the basic thing. I want to spend more time making videos for people and having conversations online than I do wanting to research how to game the system. I'm not going to do that. I do know that if you hit notifications, you'll get the video, and if you get the video, YouTube rewards this channel by saying, oh, a lot of people are watching it? Well, we'll show it to some random people, and maybe they'll start enjoying your community. So please, hit subscribe, as well as hit the bell. Share this with somebody. You share it with somebody, and it just organically will grow like that, and hit the like. Those 3 things, they're free, 100% free. Liking, subscribing, and hitting the bell, and then sharing it. Free things, and they help me a lot. The other things are the 2 paid things. 1, we have a 99-cent tier on this channel that grants you access to all of the badges, and I have emojis and emotes and stuff in chat. The reason why I dropped it down to 99 cents, and it's called the chat pack, not the $4.99 that existed channel member, please don't click that on YouTube, is because I created a Patreon. And the Patreon is there because they will pay me more than YouTube does. And I am trying to make a living off this. Patreon, there are 3 tiers. I'm not going to go into all of them super detailed. I'm going to say that the Player 2 tier, you will get an extra episode of this podcast, which is awesome, as well as access to a special chat room in our Discord, which you should join. Discord's free, but the special chat room does cost the Player 2. Player 1, you're going to get your name at the end of this podcast, every single podcast, as a producer, and a special thanks, as well as discounts on all merchandising. And then the last one is the Collector. There's only like 12 or 13 spots, and that's just its own thing. You can read it online. That's it. That's my pitch. Now let me quickly reset it, and we're going to snap, and it's going to show up. All right, thanks for doing that with me. Okay, so back to the game. So multiplayer, that's another thing, is like playing games with other people. You should join our Discord. Discord, again, is free. The special chat room is a part of the whatever Player 2 thing, and Player 1. But at any rate, you should join our Discord because multiplayer games, we got cross-platform, we got cross-play. Got a burp. Cross-platform, cross-play, cross-gen, all this stuff. The ways to play are limitless. We can play so many different ways, and I think that if we were to change the way that we look at things from I got the best. I got the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X, the Nintendo Switch OLED. Now I can play my games too. I'm playing this game you want to play. Like, if we change the interaction to actual interaction versus possession, I think we got ourselves something unmatched. And that is what this community is all about. Oh man, we made it full circle. I wanted to talk about this community. That is what this community is all about. Playing games together, enjoying the experiences that are created. I know this is a bad camera angle for those of you watching this and not just listening to it, but I don't care because I'm comfortable. It's hot as heck in this room because I had to close the window because of the gardeners outside. It's too loud. I'm drinking coffee. But yeah, if we were to change our outlook to make the games the focus of this, oh, how amazing would that be? How amazing would that be? If that was the case? I know that I'd be stoked. I'd be stoked. Hey, you know what? No, dang it. What are all of these different sounds? Oh, that's good to have. Oh, that's kind of creepy. Okay. Okay, cool. Now I have all the sounds. I'm changing them all. I want one to be It's a Me Mario. Please actually comment below which or comment on the video, or I don't know if you can do it on the podcast. Tell me what sounds I should have. I really want to have an It's a Me Mario. I want to have some sort of Zelda sounds. Oh, I'm gonna totally do sounds. Okay, now that I talked for 30 minutes about that topic that I did not plan on talking about at all, I wanted to talk, more about different games that are coming out and like my excitement for that. But I talked for 30 minutes about, guys, the community is so important to me. Like that, again, something was said on one of my streams, the last stream that I had before I recorded this episode, which was, I played this game when it came. I was so that, and this was during the Ocarina of Time. I'm stumbling over myself. This is crazy. Wow, I'm tired. I played Ocarina of Time back when it came out, and I'm so thankful. Back before the internet was around back then, but still, back before internet and cell phones or smartphones and distractions, I just sat in a room and played a game. And, there's an element of that I really miss, like I miss the inability, right? I remember back in the day. So back in the day when I used to buy games, I used to go to a place called Funkoland. And someone in the last one was like, Funkoland, oh my gosh, Funkoland was purchased by GameStop or turned into GameStop. I don't know, because I was too young to figure out what those businesses were doing back in the day. So, it is what it is. But I used to go to Funkoland and just drool over the games and just get so excited about purchasing new games, get games at Blockbuster and rent them and play them. I remember, we'll talk about the summer in a second, but so I would go to Funkoland and I would save, right? Or trade my games in, or my pops would buy the game for me. And I would always, if it was a game that I knew was going to be exceptionally difficult, I'd buy the Primas or Primas, whatever they called it, player's guide. And that was so I used to have so many player's guides, and in the player's guides were the pictures, and I loved the pictures. I would download, all these pictures offline when I started, to be able to use the internet and get the JPEGs and, make these different things. Like, I loved the pictures in these things, and I would use these player's guides to 100% games. And that was before we could get walkthroughs, and then walkthroughs came out, and I remember getting walkthroughs for games and being super excited about that. But I would play these, and I would play the game blind, but then I would go back and want to use the guide to 100% stuff. And there was just such a there was something amazing about being in a room with a game, and that's what you did. You just played the game. And there was no distractions, cell phones, second TV. Now it's I play my video games, and at the same time the TV's on, and then there's music going, and there's 15 things going on to stimulate my brain. And it's just there was a moment, there's something changed from sitting and enjoying a game like a book. Because, again, I played RPGs and single-player stories. I didn't really get into multiplayer all that much. So for me, it was like a book because I'm playing through a story, sitting there and enjoying and being completely encapsulated and just lost in this story. And now it's just there's so many distractions. And that comment just hit home because I'm like, dude, I'm going to do that. When I play games now, I'm not going to have other things on. I'm not going to have music going. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to listen to the music in the game. I'm going to enjoy it. And I just, like, that was such an eye-opening, like, wow, like, we really are a distracted society. So, like, this is exciting. Like, I'm learning stuff in all of this too. Like, you think I know everything about games? I know nothing about games. I simply am just sharing excitement about this stuff. So that was something that was said that, like, really, really was like, I want that to be a part of this. I want this community to grow, to be focused, right? And that's a part of the mindfulness. It's just like enjoying the art that has been created, right? Because that's what happens. These development teams make these games. They're beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous games. There's a lot of time spent there, and to just like casually be like, it doesn't check all the boxes for me, so therefore it's trash. That's the part that like makes me so sad, is like, it's, I equate it, and maybe this is an over glorification of video games, but forget it, like forget it. Over glorification of video games, but I don't care. Like, honestly, this is how I feel about it. So strap in, dude. Put your seatbelt on, because I'm getting after it. This is how I feel whenever someone looks at a game and goes, that game's trash. Okay. I feel the same as if you were to walk into a museum, go to an exhibit, and be like, oh, that art's garbage. Here's the deal. It is an artistic representation. Do I think that every game is created to showcase an artistic capability of a specific creator? No. I do think that some games may be created, specifically cell-phone games, especially the ones that clone themselves and make a bunch of the same thing but alter like one word. I do think that some games may be created to make money. Yes, that does exist, but not necessarily the games I play, right? And to look at a game like, because I know it happened with, let's see here, what would be a good example? Paper Mario Origami. I know that people didn't really like that game. Me personally, I didn't enjoy playing it. But to look at that game and say something like Paper Mario Origami Kingdom, I think is what it was called, is garbage, which is funny because it's paper. Anyway, is so saddening to me, because it's not that it's garbage. It's that you just didn't enjoy playing it. And that's okay. Something can be not enjoyable. Okay, here we go. We're getting amped up. Coffee's pumping through the veins. Something can be not enjoyable. You can sit there and be like, I don't like broccoli. But that doesn't mean that broccoli is garbage. It means that you don't like broccoli. Okay? You can sit there and be like, I don't like getting a haircut. Weird example, JD, but I got to run with it because I said it. That doesn't mean that getting a haircut is trash. You can be like, I don't like horror movies. I don't like horror movies. But that doesn't mean that horror movies are garbage. It doesn't mean that horror movies are tasteless trash. You can be there. I'm doing 2 more examples. You can sit there and be like, I don't like tomatoes. Why food? Because food's so important. But that doesn't mean tomatoes are garbage. And the last one is, I don't like chihuahuas. You can say that. I have nothing wrong with chihuahuas. But that doesn't mean that chihuahuas are trash. And I think that's what's important. Whenever I see someone be like, this is trash, I immediately think the one thing, which is, oh, you're still a child. You don't understand that opinion is something that you own. It's yours. And you can have it. But you're not big enough to decide for all. You're small. You're itty bitty. And the more people that rally and are like, oh, this is garbage, this is trash, this is people who use this are trash, every time they say that, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. They become less and less important, because that kind of vernacular, that kind of verbiage, that kind of behavior, that kind of acting is one I see in my child. Crybaby. Getting sad because you can't play with a pen. Right? My kid freaks out. She's playing with a pen, and I'm like, nah, maybe drawing on the wall is not the best idea. We rent, we'd have to pay for it, and you're not making a substantial contribution when it comes to finances, so maybe this is not something that you should be doing. And she says to me, but Dad, I want to play with this pen. She's 1 year old. She doesn't speak. And I'm like, no. So I take the pen, and then she whines and cries, and it's the end of the world. And every time I read a comment saying, oh, Series S is trash, you want to know what I think? Oh, you must be baby. You need your juice box and some fishy crackers and nap time because you can't be an adult. You must be a child. Is your diaper full? Do you need a change? That's truly how I feel about it. Every time I read it, at first it bothered me. I was like, no, dude, what are you talking about? But then I realized something. Those people are children. They have to be. It's impossible for them to be an adult because they don't know that they're not that important. They don't know it. They think that everything that they say is the biggest, most important thing out there. But it's not. And so that is something that I think is just like, I don't even know how we got here, but it's like such a huge thing that I like see in this community is the words, this is trash. And it's just like, oh, no. So publicly, you're wrong. Like, how embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, no, it's not trash. You don't like it. That's fine. Respectable. Hey, you want me to name? Here, me, JD. I'm going to name things that I don't like. Me personally, I don't like horror movies. Why? They scare me. Are they trash and garbage and awful? No. Star Wars, my favorite thing in the whole world. Tattoos, Star Wars. It's got Star Wars stuff up here. My daughter's middle named Leia because of Princess Leia. Star Wars is so important to me. I did not like Episode 8. I am one of the people that did not enjoy watching Episode 8, which is The Last Jedi. Is it trash? No. Why is it not trash? Because I don't like it. That's it. It's not enjoyable for me. Aspects of it I enjoy, but for the most part, it's not a movie I choose to watch on a regular basis. I watch other ones, and I really enjoy them. But is it trash? Nah. Because I'm an adult, full-grown man. Yeah. What's another thing I don't like? I really don't like... Actually, there's not a lot. I don't concern myself with looking for things I don't like, so it's really hard for me to call upon it right away. And that's something that I was listening to a podcast from Bert Kreischer, who's a stand-up comedian, talking with Casey Neistat, who's a creator, an amazing, really inspirational creator on YouTube. I think his work is amazing. He's actually one of the creators that got me inspired to make videos and vlogs and stuff like that. Him, Peter McKinnon, and stuff like that. And Bert was talking about how much he's a huge fan of Casey, and every time that Casey would succeed, he felt like he would succeed. And every time that Casey did something, amazing or like hit another achievement, Bert was like, I really feel like I hit this achievement too. Like I was rooting for you as if I was a part of this process, but all I was someone watching these videos. It was so amazing to me. And he said something really profound, which was, you learn so much more. I think I've already said this, but I don't care. From being a fan of something than you do from hating something. Because when you hate something, you immediately dictate, you say, this is trash, this is something I hate, and it's done. There's nothing more. There's nothing that thing can teach you from that point forward because you've deemed it garbage, trash, and you hate it. But if you become a fan, not of everything, right? You can't be a fan of everything. I'm not a fan of things I don't like, but I'm willing to be I don't rush to hate on something because there's a potential for me to learn from something that I may not otherwise experience because it's not something I would do normally, right? So I may not do something because I don't like it, but I can still learn from it. And now what this has to do with being a fan, you become a fan of something, you learn through the things that fail and learn through the things that succeed when you're a fan of something. So I highly recommend becoming fans of things because being a fan is amazing. You get to learn a bunch of things. You get to get excited for stuff. You get to feel things with other people. It's really exciting stuff. But that being said, right, like it is so important that this community truly takes a look inside, right? Gosh, this has turned into like a TED Talk. Takes a look inside. and we really start to catalog some of this stuff and become mindful. Because the idea that we as a community band together and strengthen ourselves through experiences that other people have and through the experiences we share is so much more valuable than searching for the faults and the disappointments that exist through getting what we don't want, like a bunch of whiny babies. So, my call to action, what is happening? This is a gaming podcast. My call to action is simple. Become fans of something. Become excited about something. Just really invest yourself in something. It doesn't have to be this. It doesn't have to be video games necessarily. I'm investing myself in video games because I think they're really, really awesome and powerful and beautiful tools to help build community. But become fans. And if there's something you don't like, if you find yourself being someone who is quick to criticize, hate, and deem as trash, let's take a step back. Let's just hold off for a second. And let's try to learn. Because what would happen to the gaming industry, arrow marker, world, if we as a community grew and became so powerful and such a loud voice for positivity, mindfulness? What could we do? I think we could do some pretty great things. I think we honestly could affect a significant amount of people and really, really help bring people into a community where they feel taken care of and heard and loved. Because honestly, you heard my story of the first episode. Like, I was so alone for so long because of my passions for this, but also because the world in my societies that I was a part of, right, my local communities, didn't look at people like myself, gamers, more timid, as someone who necessarily was worth investing a lot of time in. And I know that you guys are like me in this, which is you're so much, well, not like me, it sounds weird. I know that you guys feel like I do, which what I feel is that there's so much power, not power. There's so many stories. There's so many people. There's so many awesome, beautiful, wonderful individuals that we don't know and we want to know. So this episode is wild. We went all over the place, but to sum up my thoughts on this stuff is just I want this community to grow, and I want us to really be something that people look at us and are like, whoa, there's something a little different about them. We don't hear stuff like this is trash. We don't hear stuff. They're not outspoken in screaming and crying about what company X, Y, and Z hasn't done for them. Instead, every time adversity, every time that there's some sort of challenge or the masses scream and yell because they didn't get what they want, this community looks and goes, but this is what we can do with what we got. And we only maximize. Even in something that we may feel like we're not being served properly, we still look at that situation and be like, we're going to maximize it. And let me use an example that has changed, right? Thankfully, I wasn't cool with it, but it changed. When Horizon Forbidden West was originally announced, they had a pay scale that was wildly confusing for some, and for others it was, ridiculous. And it looked like it was a money grab. That's what it did. It's simple, plain and simple. It looked like it was a money grab, right? Because if you wanted to get the upgraded copy for PlayStation 5, but you didn't have a PlayStation 5 yet, you still had to pay extra for this, that, and you might not get a PlayStation 5, so then you wasted money, and there's no way to upgrade, and you basically had to upfront be like, no, I'm going to spend the extra 30 or 40 bucks to get the PlayStation 5 version, even though I don't have one, and they're charging all this extra money. But if the mindset of the person was the game is what's important, right? So I don't have a PlayStation 5, there's a PlayStation 4. Yes, that situation was not cool. But instead of screaming and complaining about it, we approached it with reason and figuring out how to maximize the situation. I think we could have still talked about and discussed how that wasn't the best solution. And be like, yeah, that's a bummer solution because that doesn't benefit a lot of us. And it really feels like they are trying to, Either it feels like they're trying to take advantage of the gaming community, which I don't think it was that, but it just doesn't feel like they're serving us the way that, we as gamers deserve to be served. But this is what we're being given, so this is the decision we're going to make. We're either going to go like, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with this, I'm not going to play this game, or we go, okay, well, I don't have a PlayStation 5, I'm going to stick with the PlayStation 4 version, this, that, and the other, and just leave it at that, because the narrative was so toxic, was so aggressive, just screaming, crying, PlayStation's awful, money-grubbing corporate dogs. I'm just like, dude, we are so quick to attack each other. Honestly, there's too much craziness. Let's band together. Let's get together. Let's agree that this is not the best situation and be like, that's a bummer. Let's move forward, because that's one game. And there's a whole community. So many other people. Let's show our true colors, guys. Let's really, really try to band together and bring positivity and mindfulness to the gaming community. We can do it. Slam some coffee. It's a gaming podcast. This isn't a self-help podcast. But guess what? I help myself. And finish it. Well, that was a heck of an episode. Yep. I think the last thing to say is simple. Keep playing. And happy gaming.